Here's a simple diagram to teach you how to find something you would love to do that actually puts food and money on the table. It's three factors here, and there's nuances to each of these factors. One, what they will pay for. Two, what you enjoy. And three, what you have the potential to be competent and great at. Most people never find that full intersection. Maybe they don't really love what they do, they like it, or they tolerate it. I know a lot of people here who believe that it's not about enjoying it. It's just about, putting food on the table, whatever makes the most money. And so there's nuances. So let's break that down. So with this first nuance, there are people like that, and there is a certain amount of truth to it. This is a competitive marketplace, which means that there's a limited amount of supply and maybe a lot more demand for certain jobs. Therefore, plenty of people get kind of pushed out because they're either not competent enough at it, or there's just not enough not enough job openings to create this. Now, the issue with that belief here is that, like, if you're all the way up here, you could have done it, but you've already put yourself out of the race just because of your limiting belief. And maybe that's true in certain situations, maybe it's not. Now, the second nuance here is potential, because you may not have found the skill that you enjoy or could be competent at. And that's why, especially when you're young, it's important to taste and try many different things. And then finally, what they will pay you for. Market demand is very important. Now, there's certain skill sets that just don't have a lot of people paying for. And if they do have people paying for it, it's just a small supply of people, and it's not enough to fuel all the people willing to do it. So that's why certain things like improv comedy usually have, people who are not making a full-time living from it. Or they're doing it for free because people aren't willing to pay droves of money like with certain stand-up comedians. And even stand-up comedy, it's definitely a larger pool of demand and supply, but still, there's a limited amount of spots. So this part is important too, because some people are like closer to the outside of this in the sense that they may have the potential to be only decent at this and not great. And for some occupations, decent's enough to make $50K a year, and some people are happy enough with that, and maybe that's your goal. But some people, they really want to make, or they must make a lot of money from this, and that's when this one and this one both are very important. I mean, if you're just decent as a science teacher, maybe you could become a high school teacher. But if you're really, really good, maybe the best in the world, you're winning a Nobel Prize, well, that changes the game. You'll be farther along here. And so that's why it's important to not only just try and taste a lot of different skills and just to see if you have the potential to be good at it, but also to see if you like it. But also, in addition to all of that, for the potential component, that's something that, depending on certain fields, you have to be one of the best, or there's really not much money in it. Other fields, if you're just in the middle, you can still potentially make it by. And that's where I disagree with Malcolm Gladwell's idea, the 10,000-hour rule. Now, a lot of celebrities have quoted, even misquoted this from the book I've read where he discusses it. Malcolm himself has even mentioned how people have misquoted the advice. Essentially, the point in the book is simply saying that, when studying certain violinists and, musicians, the number one in the field has a couple thousand plus more hours than the number 2 or 3, and they're both usually above that 10,000-hour mark. And so people got this idea that if you just put 10,000 hours of practice into any skill set, you'll become the best in the world at it. Well, maybe for certain skill sets that's true because it's more of just a pure hard work and grit type of deal. And I'm sure it is for certain skill sets because there's certain case studies around chess and violin where that's been proven. But for other skill sets, that may not be the case. You need to test different things out. And the biggest supporter of my case for this idea is Warren Buffett. He said in numerous shareholder meetings at his conference, And this is a guy who has been the richest person in the world for many years, on and off for many decades, and he's still like in the top 5, top 10 usually. And what he said recently, I think the last time he said it was in the 2022 shareholder meeting. He said he disagreed with the 10,000 hour rule because he could have put 10,000 hours into basketball and he still would have sucked at it. He just didn't have the physical fitness or talent to be good. And so he found where he sucked, his weaknesses, and he found where he was good, which was investing, and that's how he did it. So play with all these, people may define these as different things, but ultimately that's what they mean. They may phrase these differently. They may say something else along these lines, but ultimately it's just another way of reframing this triangle. I mean, there's all these things. Some people may be like, oh, there's a fourth criteria. It's is this something you can do sustainably or whatever that is, but you can usually fold that fourth factor into one of these. That's sustainability would be around enjoyability, in my opinion. So hopefully this helped.